Hello and welcome. Let's get into headaches and the pelvic bowl. So this tutorial, this video is going to outline mechanically what is going on in the body that could be contributing to a headache. And then we're going to do a bit of a deeper dive into the emotions behind headaches and the energetics behind headaches. And when we look at the emotion and the energetics behind a headache, that is really when we recognize that we have to take a peek and take a look at what is also going on in the pelvic bowl. So let's get started. On a physical level, like in the physical body, there's two main muscle groups that can contribute to pain in the head. The first muscle group is called the suboccipitals. These are a group of small muscles. They attach the back of the back of the head, the base of the skull, to the upper part of the neck. And these muscles primarily are just for postural stability, just to help kind of maintain the posture of the head and the neck. They do a little bit of movement, but the main action here is stability and support. So if you have an issue with your suboccipital muscles, they will refer pain into the head. So if you have like radiating pain into one side of the head or the other, or if you have like that shooting pain in behind your eye, that is definitely some shortening and some spasming in the suboccipital muscles that is going on. If you identify with a headache kind of more just this kind of nondescript pain in the whole head, so the back of the head, the side of the head, this is what healthcare professionals will refer to as a tension headache. This is also the suboccipital muscles, but this is more an issue with the trigger point in the suboccipitals. So you've got both sides of the muscle group that are irritated. The trigger point is where the nerve pierces the muscle. So there's a lot of activity going on there anyway. And so this is just like a hyperactive trigger point. A lot of unhappiness at this area, which then radiates to the rest of the muscle and then which refers pain into the head. So this would be more of a bilateral headache, not just one side of the head or the other, but both of these types of pain. The suboccipitals are typically the culprit. If we move a little bit in front of that muscle group, so we're going to look at the jaw joint, the TMJ. The muscles that support this joint are mainly for opening and closing the mouth. They help with chewing and, like I said, opening and closing the mouth. So the muscle group that we're looking at here are called the pterygoid muscles. We're taking a look at these guys because they are also responsible for teeth grinding. So if you are waking up in the morning with a sore jaw, with a sore neck, with a headache, chances are you are grinding your teeth at night. And that can also refer pain into the head. And the proximity of the suboccipital muscles and these jaw muscles are super close together. They're just like centimeters apart. So oftentimes what I found in my experience with rehab and with physio is that oftentimes if people were having a headache, and that's what I was seeing them for, the suboccipitals were unhappy and also the muscles of the jaw were unhappy. Let's do just a bit of a deeper dive here, and we will look at these areas from an emotional or a metaphysical perspective. So what a headache typically means is this invalidation of self. So this way in which you are being very self-critical. If we want to take it a bit further and talk a bit about migraine, and these kind of go hand in hand here. The migraine, the emotion, the metaphysical meaning behind a migraine is this dislike of being driven, or rather kind of this dislike of letting go of control over life. So the main theme here really is about resisting the flow of life. If we look specifically at teeth, so teeth grinding and teeth are all about decision making. So if you are having some issues with indecisiveness, that can definitely show up with the teeth grinding, the teeth, and the jaw. The specific emotion behind the TMJ and the jaw joint is a little bit more specific. So at the TMJ, we're really looking at anger, resentment, this desire for revenge. So this theme of just kind of feeling attacked and not safe. If we kind of look at these all together, that is kind of the theme here, right? So there's this theme of fear and anger around the self. So if we turn those themes around just on a very kind of like superficial, quick tutorial way, headaches are really about feeling safe in our own bodies. So this feeling of safety and security. And if we are talking about safety and security, this is where we have to take a look at the pelvis. So the root, the first energy center in our body, the root, this is our seat of safety. This is our place of safety and survival. So when this feels threatened in any way, or if your baseline is it's unsafe, it's not good, I have to hold on tight to this control, if that is your baseline, chances are that headaches are, a common theme for you in your life. They definitely were for me. Our root, our first energy center, is at the very base of the spine. So this corresponds with the base of the pelvis, and this is where our pelvic floor muscles are situated. Our pelvic floor muscles, they work to support the pelvic organs. They work by keeping them in place and preventing any prolapse or extra movement when we're straining. So if we're coughing or sneezing or bearing down during a bowel movement. The muscles also help to maintain both urinary and fecal continence until our body lets us know that we need to go to the bathroom. So, in my experience, if you suffer from regular headaches, and on a physical level, there's some tightness in those suboccipital muscles that we talked about. There's some teeth grinding and some clenching at the jaw joint. Chances are that the muscles of your pelvic floor are going to show up very similarly. So the muscles of the pelvic floor will also be very tight. There'll be an inability to relax these muscles. And that healthcare providers, a pelvic floor physio, will diagnose us as a hypertonic pelvic floor. So hypertonic pelvic floor muscles that just have this inability to let go, they're just constantly tight and super clenched all the time. That can show up a few different ways in the physical body. So there can be pain with pelvic exams, pain with intercourse, just kind of like muscular pain in and around the pelvis. Sometimes it can refer to the backs of the hips. It can contribute to an overactive bladder. It can also contribute to incontinence. So if you're having a lot of urgency around going to the bathroom, or if you have a lot of anxiety and discomfort using the bathroom in a public place, for example, and you're holding your urine, until you get home, that can also contribute to kind of like this overactive, this tight pelvic floor. From the standpoint of this tutorial, a physical diagnosis here is not really the important part or the take-home message of this particular video and this particular tutorial. But if you would like a straightforward physical diagnosis, if some of these things that I'm talking about really resonate with you, I would definitely encourage you to go and get a pelvic exam done by a pelvic floor physiotherapist. Um, it's it's good. It's a good thing to know. It's good knowledge to know, and they can kind of tie it all together for you in a really gentle and an easy way, which is nice when we're dealing with kind of major themes in the pelvis. Okay. Before we dive into the metaphysical meaning behind dysfunction or issues kind of going on in the pelvic bowl, I want to do a bit of a disclaimer that when we set an intention to look at the reasons why pain or dysfunction is showing up for us in our body, from this more kind of like self-inquiry perspective, from this inner work perspective, just understand that a lot of stuff can come up. Also understand that the body's not going to give you something that you can't handle. So anything that is coming up for you is coming up because it's ready to be looked at, it's ready to be released. But there's a lot going on in the pelvic bowl. So I just want to do a bit of a disclaimer before we dive into the meaning behind the headaches, that this is not like the end all be all of pelvic healing. But the relationship between the headaches and the pelvis is just fascinating to me. So when we look at the root, so you can call it the root, you can call it the pelvic floor, you can call it the first energy center, however you would like to kind of describe it or however it works to be kind of identified for you. The emotion going on in this area is this denial of self. It is this deep rooted fear and guilt around just being you. It is this rejection of the feminine principle, this rejecting of femininity. So, big themes here, okay? But as I leaned into this, I'm like, yeah, no, that definitely makes sense in my own life with my own headaches, okay? The left side of the body coincides with the feminine. So the feminine energy is really about this receptivity, this taking in, the mother, okay? The right side of the body coincides with this more masculine energy. So this energy of giving and the father. So I just want to do that little side note because if you classically have like these left-sided headaches, that's just another way that you can lean into maybe what the body is trying to communicate with you, just kind of what your headaches are trying to encourage you to look at. If we move up from the root, so let's just move up a little bit further between the pubic bone and the belly button. This is our second energy center. This is the sacral chakra. The emotion, the metaphysical kind of meaning in this area of the body is it's the place of self. So it's how we identify as a human. It really is how we express our creativity. So this place of creating. The first pain that I can remember experiencing in my body is the pain of a headache. I've had them for as long as I can remember. As I got older, they turned into migraines. They were debilitating migraines. I have at times in my life been very heavily medicated for them because they would just knock me out. My headaches would get particularly bad during ovulation, 2 days leading up to my cycle, for the entirety of my cycle, and then I could always count on a terrible migraine the last day of my menstrual cycle. So this was just my story. This was what happened. It didn't really matter if I was on birth control or not. Hormones didn't really seem to make a difference. I tracked when I got them, and I've done food things and allergy stuff, and I've kind of looked at it in many many different ways. But it wasn't really until I actually got a pelvic floor, the hypertonic pelvic floor diagnosis, that I really started leaning into why I was at that time so incredibly disconnected from my own body. Um, for me, and I have to be very gentle with myself kind of when I lean into this whole journey for myself, but there really is um, this way in which you just get to a point, I think, where you're just ready to be done with certain things in your life. For me, at that time, I didn't understand the connection between my pelvic floor and my headaches. But for me, they are intricately connected. Um, so it really was the start for me, about this self inquiry, this intention setting, this way of just learning how to connect back in with myself, and what I need and what my body is trying to communicate with me. The biggest thing for me, and this is where I started, and it's why I'd like to share it with you on this video, because it's easy and you can start it right away if this resonates with you, and if you identify with it, is this idea of inviting in with joy and with enthusiasm this way in which you can create again in your life today, right? So, um, I started by coloring with my daughter when she would ask me. Like, it didn't matter what I was doing. I would just set aside supper and I would go and color with my daughter. My son and I make up stories before bed. We are a family that loves to sing and make up show ups. So I really try to, this is how I invite it in on a day to day, is doing stuff with my kids. um, if you don't have children, if childhood memories for you, like if you just cannot go back to that time in your life where you just invited in creativity and creating just because it was something that you really enjoyed doing, um, maybe hang out with nieces and nephews, or if you have friends who have kids, if you have your own children, if you have like a friend who's a kindergarten teacher, just lean into the way that young children create. The other thing that I'd like to mention, is if headaches are a constant theme for you, don't wait until you get another headache to start some of this stuff. This is easy stuff that you can just start to kind of put into your day to day right away. So, again, don't wait until you get a headache. Use this in between time to just start kind of leaning into what inviting in creating and this creative energy, just what that means, like what inviting that into your life might look like and what that might mean for you. Our physical bodies are always communicating with us, they're always trying to encourage us to take a look at ourselves, take a look at our life. Most of us have been told not to listen, or we don't have time to listen, or we're too busy, there's other things that need to happen, and we put it on the back burner. This is where disconnection happens. Okay, so if you are someone who is looking to just reconnect with themselves, you're not really sure where to start. If you suffer from regular headaches, if you suffer from regular migraines, if that also coincides with a pelvic floor dysfunction, or you're just having some issues in the pelvic floor or in the pelvis, regardless of what's going on in the head, these sessions are definitely for you. So, how do we listen? in this time on the planet where it's just really hard to do anything. And there are a lot of emotions that are needing to be managed. Well, what I have put together for you is they're 5 sessions. So these sessions are kind of more in the realm of health and wellness coaching. Um, these sessions are one-on-one. They're done virtually, so that you can just be in the comfort of your own home as you work through some of this more kind of like intimate inner work that I'm offering. Um, and the wellness sessions are really based upon um, the breath work that I'm going to be sending you. So, what I have designed specifically for the headaches and how it ties into the pelvis, I've put together a guided breathwork session to really get in behind some of the themes as to why headaches are showing up. So, themes around control. So, like this inability to let go of control over your life, this resisting the flow of life. Um, if you can remember, the major kind of emotions in the head are that anger, fear, feeling like you're being backed into a corner. So, the guided breathwork session, and this is that circular, conscious, connected breath that I talk so much about. This session really works to release those emotions. So, the breath is a great way to bring you into your body to find where these emotions are hiding. Um, and it offers an opportunity for those to come to the surface to be released. So, the active breath session is really about releasing and letting go, to create space to invite in what it is that you do want. Okay. And sometimes that is hard to determine because we're so used to having these emotions in our body. We're so used to having this space that we're just holding so tightly onto. So what I've also developed, it's a slow down breath technique. It's a different breath technique. It's more of a guided meditation, to really open up and bring the breath down into the pelvis. The pelvis is oftentimes where we need to do a lot of the releasing and the letting go. So the more slow down breath, the deeper belly breaths, really getting that air and down into the pelvis really helps to create space so we can further invite in what it is that we need. Like I had mentioned, figuring out what it is that we need, it's not easy, right? We need support with that. So, what I am also offering with this, because there are such heavy themes um, going on behind the headaches and the pelvis, in and around these wellness sessions, we'll really do a lot of shadow work to help uncover where it is that you're feeling so much guilt and shame, where we're kind of holding on to these stories, whatever they may be, just working through some of the guilt and shame around why we're holding on to them so much and kind of what's really in behind why that pain is showing up in the body. With my background in physio, I'm well versed in all things physical body, health promotion, exercise related, mechanical assessment. So every time we meet, we'll be checking in with the physical body, and there'll be an opportunity to work on that as well. What I'm also offering for this round is it's ongoing Voxer support. So if you're not familiar with what Voxer is an app that you download onto your phone. It's a walkie-talkie app / like messenger app. So we can continue to communicate in between sessions, just so I can kind of fully support you as you work through some of these deeper themes, and I can continue to check in with you and help kind of hold you accountable. So this really is kind of leaning into more of that health and wellness coaching realm. If this way of looking at pain and working through physical pain in the body is something that you are interested in doing, um, please reach out. I will post my email address. If you are watching this video, you're part of the Facebook group, so you can also just send me a direct message. I also have Instagram, which I will also be posting about on there. Um, and we can just talk about the level of support that works best for you. The bigger package that I just spoke about, that is going to be kind of like the longer support. We're looking at like a 5 to 10 week kind of support. But if you are someone that has already done a lot of work around maybe why headaches are showing up for you, if you spent a lot of time at the physio or the chiropractor, you have a better understanding about kind of what's going on the physical body, and maybe you just want to do a guided breathwork session, that's also something that is available as well. The breathwork session is just going to give you another tool in your toolbox to help support you in working through the headaches or the migraines. So there's a few different options there. Please reach out, and I cannot wait to hear from you.